Hi, everybody. I'm Vicky Ferrara, the lawyer and owner of Worldwide Surrogacy, and thank you so much for coming. And tonight we have with us Amanda and Kim, and Amanda Silverstein and Kim, and they are intended parent and surrogate. So what we want to do tonight is show you what it's like when people have a relationship to bring a baby into the world through gestational surrogacy. And this is our opportunity because a lot of people ask me questions all the time about who will my surrogate be and what will it be like during the journey, what kinds of communication will we have, and will we like each other, and will we be able to get medical information? And there's a lot of fear of the unknown when it comes to surrogacy. So we're going to address that initial coming to the process, and then what it's like once you meet your person and you start going along together. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start having Amanda and Kim just introduce themselves in their own words.
Sure. So hi, everyone, and thanks, Vicki and team, for having me. Such an honor and a privilege to be doing this with Kim here. So I live in New York City with my husband, Alan, and we have a 4.5-year-old son, Aaron, and our baby is Andrew. Andrew is just shy of 8 months, and he was the little guy who was born via surrogate to Kim here in Denver, Colorado. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you on this call are in the process of making decisions. Is this the right path? Do I want to pursue this? Maybe you've already signed up and just want some background on how it all goes, but I will say that when you have that baby in your arm, there is nothing like it. It is gold. And I have Kim to thank and Vicki and team to thank for just completing my family.
Thanks, Amanda. So Kim, tell us about you and tell us how you came to become a surrogate.
Well, my name is Kim and I live in Colorado. I have a 6-year-old daughter, a 6.5-year-old. And I was actually in the Peace Corps in South Africa, and my host sister there had lupus. She had kidney failure. She went to dialysis every other day. And I was not a match. I desperately wanted to be. And so I said, okay, I'll figure out a way somehow to pay it forward so that hopefully like good karma finds its way to you. And didn't end up donating a kidney to anybody here. It's really a confusing process.
Yeah.
But then I got pregnant. I had my daughter. I loved being pregnant. I said, well, I could do this. And so then I looked into surrogacy as a way to kind of like, try to pay it forward towards my host sister,
That's a beautiful thought. People often ask me why women become surrogates, and I always say it's not the money. It's that they really want to help someone. They really want to bring a baby into the world, and they value children, and they value family, and they value this ability to bring it to the table to help bring little Andrew into the world. Mm-hmm. So tell me, I'll start with Amanda. Tell me when you decided to pursue surrogacy, what was in your imagination about who your surrogate might be? Anything? Nothing?
I didn't have a lot of, there was no one in my personal network at all that had ever, come close to doing something like this. I thought it was reserved for the rich and famous, the Kim Kardashians, the Anderson Coopers of the world. So never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be a candidate for this. When I thought about like what my surrogate might be, my initial thought was the movie starring Tina Fey, Baby Mama. I didn't realize that the process was as involved and that the quality and caliber of surrogates that would be put in front of us would be so high. Kim is smart, educated. She's a teacher herself. Sorry, Kim. Had to give you a plug there. That was just not what I expected. I just didn't know really, but that was the only real frame of reference that I had. Baby Mama.
That is interesting because it is in the news and not always in a positive light. So you really do have to like talk to people and see if you can build up your confidence to jump in, as they say. And Kim, sure. when you decided to become a surrogate and you were thinking about carrying a baby for someone, what was in your imagination about who these people or this person might be that you would carry a baby for?
I didn't really have any any ideas in my head. What I did know was that I wanted to try to find somebody that I would form a bond with, somebody where like talking to them would feel natural. It'd be like a really good friend. And the only thing I really wanted was somebody that I could communicate with afterwards. I didn't want it to be like a one and done and I never see them or the kid again. Like I wanted to kind of be like an aunt, you know, like I get the occasional pictures, and then, you know, some conversation every few weeks or months, but that was all I had really hoped for.
And you were able to say that, right? You were able to, in your profile, to say that's something that you wanted, and that was honored, right?
Yeah, and I know some people, some surrogates, who have been like, I don't really want to have a lot of contact. I know some who have wanted a lot of contact but didn't voice it, and then were a little bit disappointed at the contact that they got. So I think it's really important if you're going to be a surrogate to say what you want, and don't be like afraid to say like, this is really important to me. Like communication is really important to me, because otherwise you might be a little bit upset later. But I've had pretty good luck.
I think that's part of the matching process, right? Like I'm such a communicator to begin with. And, you know, when I was talking to Vicky and team, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would take my baby and run. Like that's just not who I am. I'm a friendly, outgoing person. I like to maintain relationships. So for me, it was important to find a surrogate that was okay with that too, which is why Kim and I were a good match.
There's two things that I wanted to say. One is I wanted to thank you both, because you didn't know each other before I got into your lives, and I feel really so happy and honored and grateful that I was able to, and my team was able to, find the two of you and bring you together. But you had to come to the table with some trust. You had to trust me, and you had to trust my team to be able to bring you together, to trust that I would, or we would find someone for you that would work. And so I am very honored by that. I wanted to thank you for allowing me to have this part in your lives.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
I knew going in, and this is one thing that I learned that I never really knew before embarking on the journey, is how carefully vetted each and every surrogate was. So as we started to see these profiles, I was really impressed by the caliber of people that you were bringing to us. So the trust was easily established. And then it was a question of, okay, finding the right personality fit, because at the end of the day, I knew that no matter who you put in front of us, so long as they met the kind of expectations that we had for what we wanted, they were going to be a good match for us.
Yeah, that is awesome that you could think ahead of time what you would want in a surrogate, and both of you could think ahead of time, and Kim could think ahead of time what she would want in parents. I'm going to just alert the group that, again, thank you for being with us this evening. And also you can put questions in if you have any questions that you're thinking I'm not asking, or things about the journey of Amanda and Kim that you would like to know more about. There's a question box, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. So the next thing I wanted to go to was when you started to look at each other's profiles and you started to get interested and intrigued about each other, then eventually you met. And what was the meeting like? And where did you go in your minds and hearts after that meeting?
Yeah. So Kim, so at the time, it was October 2019 when we first met for the 2019? Yeah, 2019. When we first met for the first time, Kim was coming to Connecticut because at the time surrogacy was actually illegal in the state of New York. So she flew to Connecticut for her first doctor's appointment. And I'll never forget that day because that was the day I became an American citizen. So I was very excited. I'm from Canada, just for background. And, you know, there was a lot of anticipation. We had spoken a couple of times. We had FaceTimed a few times, just in anticipation of everything that was going to happen. And we met for dinner. We went for a nice Italian dinner. And we just had a blast. I told Kim, I was like, have a drink, come on, because you're not gonna be drinking for a very long time. And we just connected. You know, a lot of what we were able to talk about, and Kim hasn't mentioned this yet, but this was her third journey. So, you know, for me, it was really great to pick her brain about what she liked about her other intended parents, what she didn't like about them, so that I could, shape my own behavior. But also, I had my own child. I was able to carry my firstborn with no issues. So we were able to talk about parent things. And it just was a very, very easy flowing conversation. That was the first time. Do you want to talk about well, I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that first meeting?
Well, I think back to when we talked on the phone for the very first time, like when we first got each other's profiles. And like I've had so many phone calls with you. I don't even remember where I was, if I was at work or in the bathroom with Kaylee. Probably my two more spots where I'm at the most when I talk to you, it seems. But I just remembered getting your profile and really like liking it and be like, hey, I think these people sound pretty cool. And then talking to you on the phone and just getting to know you a little bit and what you were looking for, and just kind of where you were coming from as far as like the process so far. And I knew when we got off of that first video chat, I said, yeah, hopefully they like me because I really like them. And I remember being super excited to get the email that said that you guys liked me too. It almost feels like online dating where like you like somebody and then you have to like wait to see if they're gonna like heart you back.
Swipe right, or is it left?
And so I was really excited when you guys liked me back, and then we got the it's a match email, and then we could move forward. And then yeah, and then our dinner that I walked to, and you took the train.
So, and then the second time you met was around transfer day. That was in December. Kim had never been to New York City before. She'd flown into Connecticut for 3 different transfers, maybe even more, if I don't remember.
It was like my 6th flight to New York, and then I get in the car and they swoosh me away.
Yeah, to Connecticut. So I told Kim, I was like, why don't you come to New York for the day and we can go do all the touristy things. So she came in, it was like freezing cold, but we did the touristy thing. We went to Times Square. We went to the Christmas Spectacular.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then they transferred Andrew in the next day. So it was well worth it. Yeah.
So before you met, before that first dinner, were you nervous?
Yeah.
A little bit, but like kind of like online dating, like that first date. You've talked to them, you like them, but like now you're gonna meet in person.
Yeah. I think for me it was more like excitement. Like this woman is gonna be carrying my child. Like this is wild. Like it's a meeting that you never ever expect to have, and it's over something that's so bizarrely unique. And I remember like thank God that the atmosphere was very loud, because I was like, if these people next to us could overhear our conversation right now, I don't even know what they would be thinking.
It was a very strange conversation to eavesdrop on, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So what was your labor like? Tell me, how many times did you, I mean, it was detailed.
And Amanda, Alan was with you?
Alan was not with me. No.
Oh, he didn't come for that dinner?
No.
So when did he first meet Kim?
When I was in Denver.
For the birth. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, really? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's so he left it to you. He was like, go for it, Amanda. I'm here if you need me.
Yeah, I always say, with husbands, and again, because this was my second time around, my husband was a little bit, I wouldn't say that he was disengaged during my own pregnancy, but he was the type where like the baby would be like rolling around my belly and I'd be like, look, and he's like, okay, great, when's dinner? He just was a little bit. And with this one, I say that like, when I was pregnant, I was driving, he was the passenger. In this case, Kim was driving, I was the passenger, and he was locked in the trunk of the car.
Okay.
But showed up when it counted, right? Like with
definitely
court decisions, the big appointments, and of course he was there for the delivery, which we joke about. We have some photos of him like so far up against the wall.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, beautiful day though.
What did you do with Aaron at the time at the birth? Well, he didn't come to Denver, did he?
No, he didn't. My brother-in-law watched him, and obviously COVID complicated things. We would have loved for my in-laws to come watch him, and maybe my parents would have come to Denver to kind of help us out, but all of that kind of went out the window when COVID became a thing. So yeah.
Now, Kim, were you just going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that Alan wasn't completely like disengaged and gone. We had like our little group chats for when I would fly in for any important doctor's appointments, and he would always be on the Zoom call when we would have any ultrasounds or visits with the doctor. And I'd FaceTimed with them before, so.
Oh, that's good. So you got to know him too.
Yeah, just not as much. But it's, again, kind of like a girly thing. We're going to be talking about delivery and, you know, all that stuff.
Hormones and.
Yeah.
So after you met, so it's all going, you're happy, you met, we're moving ahead. How did the initial like getting to know each other go? Like the communications, and how did that go?
You know, that was something that I was really nervous about. I just didn't know if it was going to be too much communication, not enough communication. How are we going to communicate? And what I realized, and I would say this to any intended parents, is that there's just a very natural, steady cadence of communication that happens as you're going through a pregnancy. So, you know, a lot of appointments, especially in the beginning, because you're still under the care of your fertility doctor. So rather than going to the doctor once a month or 2 months, you're going literally every week. So obviously planning around that. Kim got really sick. I'm sorry, Kim. But, you know, so just checking in on her, like, how are you feeling today? And it never had to be like a, you know, a 10-paragraph conversation. Sometimes it was very quick. How are you? Great. And then sometimes there was something that we were bonding over, like, you know, COVID, for example, like that was a huge conversation point. So I think it really, it ebbed and flowed just based on where we were in the pregnancy, and just, it never felt forced. It never felt like an obligation for me. It was just very natural.
And I think that for like conversations easy during the surrogacy because you have something in common. You know, you're both pregnant at that time. And I've seen a lot of surrogates get worried or upset or nervous after birth because they'll have the baby and sometimes there's radio silence for like a week or two or just a quick message. And I do think it's important, you know, for, you know, first time surrogates to know that, you know, I don't know if you remember back when you had your own baby, but you were swamped and you get overwhelmed and you lose all track of time and space. And pretty soon it's been like a month and you haven't responded to that text message that you swore you were going to answer as soon as the baby went down. And to just, you know, like eventually you'll find your rhythm again. And it's not something that you should necessarily like, you know, worry about. But if you're worried and if you had a good communication before, that you should, if you had that good relationship, bring it up because I'm sure that they don't realize that that's happened because it's hard when you're a new parent, even if it's like your second or third one.
That is really good advice, and I would just pick up on that a little more because I think for the first time surrogate who might have a concern like that, she can always reach out to her support person on the team too, or me or someone at my office, and if she has that like a question like why, I wouldn't want someone to be sitting and worrying like, am I going to hear anything, when am I going to hear something, like that is so easy for us to like give some support around, or even find out, you know, even find out how the baby is, or even like, you know, check in with the parents and just say like, hey, like, you know, just let's have a little more communication. So but that's really good to alert people that they can say what their needs are. Like, and especially like in this, what we're doing, we're having babies, there's hormonal changes, there's physiological changes, there's birth, there's, you know, life, there's a baby, there's relationships, like say what your needs are.
Fully. So true.
And
I think you guys helped me out with my first surrogacy with that. Because it got to be really radio silent after my first one. And I mean, my first IP was a single parent. I was a single parent. I know what they were going through. But at the same time, you still feel hormonal. You still feel sad. You still miss this person that you just spent, you know, every day for the past month talking to as you waited for labor and then nothing. And so I think I had reached out probably to Serena at the time. And I think she had probably sent a message saying, hey, how's communication with your surrogate going? Which helped out because, you know, you never want to be like this like nagging person. And even if you aren't, when you're hormonal, you might feel that way. And so it was really nice having somebody at Worldwide to be able to kind of intercede on your behalf.
yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And any good professional team or agency should be there for people. I think that's a reason for, sometimes you hear about people matching independently, and I'm not saying this to make a plug for working with Worldwide or working with an agency, but I think there's a lot to be said for the support that people need in this most complicated endeavor. I mean, it's complicated emotionally, it's complicated medically, it's complicated legally. So, so I think to have people that you can go to and say what your needs are, your concerns are, is so crucial.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I felt supported every step of the way.
Oh, that's really great to hear. And so Amanda, so tell me how now you're pregnant, and how was that
Not
when you
currently
found
now,
out?
but
Yeah,
yes.
how was that when you found out Kim was pregnant and you were expecting your baby Andrew?
Yeah, that was so I had gone through a very, very long and emotional journey. And I don't know if anyone on this line can relate to having infertility issues, but it was brutal. It was a brutal experience for me. Going through the IVF was even harder. I had to do 6 egg retrievals over the course of 10 months to get 3 embryos. It was really, really long and really rough. And there was a lot riding on transfer day, and I was terrified.
Mm,
I also trusted that Kim was very capable. She's got like a golden uterus. So, when we confirmed a pregnancy, it was magical, but it was also scary because nothing's a guarantee. And just because it says it's positive doesn't mean that it's going to last. So,
mhm.
it was scary, but I also always held on to hope that it was going to stick. And every appointment in those first couple of weeks suggested that baby was growing the way he was supposed to. His heart was beating strong and getting stronger. It was just, and with every appointment that went by, you kind of like breathe a sigh of relief. Plus, we knew that we had transferred a genetically balanced embryo into a healthy uterus, so we were very, very confident. It was amazing, and Kim can tell you. I mean, she tested way early, and I was not expecting her to send me a text message that I woke up to in the morning with the blue line going
Oh
across.
my goodness.
Lost it. I was like,
Oh
that
my
can't be
God.
crazy. It was an insanely wonderful moment, and so exciting. I couldn't believe that it was happening. Yeah.
So did there come a time then in the early or a little bit more like toward the second trimester when you started to relax into, hey, we're really having a baby?
Yeah, so it's for sure. And I think, when COVID hit, we were probably we were 16 weeks long. So we were just into our second trimester, and it was definitely my silver lining. That's when I realized, okay, we're okay. But of course, there's all these milestones that you have to hit, and you never lose sight of the fact that potentially there could be something that could go wrong. But I felt in my hearts of hearts that regardless, we were going to have a baby at the end of this, and we were super, super jazzed and super excited. COVID was challenging. I was very worried about Kim's health and, of course, the baby's health and what this all meant. But again, like the coffee, many of you probably don't know this, but Vicki hosted some incredible coffee chats where she was giving us up-to-date information on what was happening across the country with rules about hospitals and travel, et cetera. So I found that to be incredibly helpful and inspiring. And yeah, you get to the second trimester and you kind of coast. I can get into kind of the challenge and roadblock that we hit if you want, Vicki.
Yeah, before we go to that, let's talk a little bit more about COVID since you brought that up, because you did. I mean, you were pregnant, Kim was pregnant, you were expecting, and then March hit and we were like, wait, what? I mean, the whole world was like, wait, what? And so how did you navigate that with your fears about health and your inability? I mean, you were far apart anyway geographically, but you had to stay far apart. So I'll start with you, Amanda, and then I'd like to go to Kim and see how she handled things like medically and going to appointments.
Yeah, so it was, I think that there's 2 ways to answer this. One was the big picture, which was, we assumed that, when we went into lockdown, even when we knew that it was going to be really, really bad and we were going to be staying put for a long time, come August, we were going to have a baby. So that really helped us power through, despite the fact that the world was falling apart around us. It really, really kept us going every day. yeah, I mean, this is where the trust comes in, right? Like, fortunately, Kim and I were talking about this last night. Like, we shared a lot of similar views around masking and social distancing, and so we could have those conversations openly and feel really comfortable about, the decisions that she was making. There was one point where before even COVID happened, Kim had a trip planned to Chicago, and we were getting closer to that trip, and she was still set to go, and the pandemic is like getting worse and worse, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I can't make her not go, but like, I also don't want her to go, like, that's too risky. And I remember my husband saying, like, she's going to make the right decision, just trust her, and she did.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, I think ultimately, like, I just knew in my hearts of hearts that Kim was taking this as seriously as we are, and she was carrying precious cargo. So she really had to do right by, by baby and by us and by her. So yeah, it was very nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah,
Kim, you're
tell us about that, Kim, how you made that decision not to go, and what was it like to have to go to the doctor during the pandemic and go to the hospital during the pandemic?
Yeah, back in like August or September of 2019, I had booked a trip to Chicago to see my ex's daughter, who I'm really close with, and I hadn't seen her in a while. And as we're getting closer and closer, and the pandemic's like, first it was like nothing, and then it was just a few cases, and then it was like New York, and then like Washington, but everywhere else was okay. And then it slowly started kind of taking over everywhere else. Out here in Colorado, there still wasn't a lot. There still weren't a lot of cases. But I kept monitoring the situation in Illinois, and as it was getting worse and worse and worse there, I was waiting to see if the airline was going to cancel it, because I didn't want to get charged for canceling it, because at the time they didn't have like the protections yet. And so it got closer and closer, and I think it was like a week or two before my trip when finally I just said, fine, I'll call. And I called, and then like the next day after I called to cancel it, like all the airlines said like, you can cancel your trip now. And I was like, oh, I hope they honor this. But with watching the cases in Chicago, I knew that it wasn't a risk I wanted to take. It's actually a trip I've canceled 4 times. I'm tentatively going to go back in June, but every time I plan to go back, the cases there spike, and I'm like, oh, guess I'm staying put.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to talk about it, because we're still in it. I mean, it appears that things are opening up more, and it appears that so many people are getting vaccinated, but it's not over. And I wanted to bring it up too, because if there are people on attending that are thinking about becoming surrogates, or parents who are thinking about becoming parents through surrogacy, we have to talk about the vaccine. And we have to talk about, I have parents now where some parents want their surrogate to get the vaccine, and some parents who don't want their surrogate to get the vaccine. And then I have surrogates who want to get the vaccine and surrogates who don't want to get the vaccine. So for one thing, that's important for us to make the right match, because now we have this issue that we have to match in the right way. But also, the science is really showing that a pregnant woman is much more apt to get sicker, seriously ill with COVID, if she's not vaccinated. So anyone who's thinking about becoming pregnant or becoming a surrogate, there's a lot of information and research that we can make available so that you can be assisted in making that decision. Because it's not just it's not a snap decision. It's not like, I don't want to get vaccinated, or I definitely want to get vaccinated. It has to come with consideration and knowledge and information.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, was as soon as COVID really like started actually being like a thing to worry about, I over here went into like lockdown mode. Thankfully, I had restocked all of my like household essentials, so I didn't have to make a toilet paper run like everybody else did, because I had just bought I buy my toilet paper and paper towels in like 3-month increments, so I was good. But I was, bartering with people in the neighborhood. Like, I'll give you a roll of toilet paper, if you give me some bleach. And we were, social distancing, leave it on the porch. Let me know when you've dropped it. I'll come out and get it. And thankfully here where I live in Colorado, everybody in my neighborhood was super helpful. I had people who, because I was, I told them I'm pregnant, I'm trying to avoid crowds, I'm looking for these things. And I had people willing to go out and find it for me. I had somebody down the street from me who made me and my daughter masks. So we've got like 15, 20 masks between the two of us. And so, but I stayed my butt in the house. I didn't go anywhere. Delivery was my friend. Because I was reading the research that, you know, pregnant women could get sicker, and
Yep.
I didn't want, you know, Lord forbid, I don't want to be the reason why something happens, you know, to this baby. And so, yeah, you really have to maybe limit yourself even more than you would if you were pregnant with your own kid, because you have to remember that it's, you know, I'm not carrying my kid. I can't make this, you know, risk choice. And so I think that's where a lot of, like Amanda said, the trust, the communication comes in. Doctor appointments.
You both handled things so well, so responsibly. Like, I just want to say that you could really be good coaches for parents and surrogates. The one thing that struck me, Amanda, was when, you know, you were concerned about Kim taking that trip to Chicago, and you were like, you probably wanted to, like, don't go. And you were like, you know, Alan was like, don't worry, you should make the right decision. You have to sit on your hands and have that trust. And that was really cool how you handled that. And then Kim taking so seriously the pandemic and wanting to take care of yourself for your own sake, for the sake of the baby, for the sake of the family that you're helping to form. I mean, just so responsible and so respectful of each other. And that's what we always hope that parents and surrogates have for each other, this mutual respect and, you know, and care for each other. So I'm really struck by that. And that's why we have you on this webinar tonight, because you really do exemplify that. Yeah, so let's go to the next thing. You ran into a roadblock then toward the end of the pregnancy. Amanda, why don't you tell us how you found out and what you found out?
Yeah, so I'll preface this by saying that everything is fine and I have the most delicious, perfect baby. But at our 20-week anatomy scan, it was a very, very hard day for us. You know, you log on to these scans and you just assume that everything's going to be okay. And I actually was supposed to be in Denver for that scan, but canceled because of COVID. And part of me is like, I'm kind of glad that I wasn't there because I don't know what I would have done. But we found out that our child, our Andrew, was going to be born with a cleft lip and palate. That was shocking to us. It was devastating to us to get this far and to struggle so hard, and to then all of a sudden know that there's something potentially wrong with your baby was devastating. I went numb that day. I mean, I didn't even know how to process it. It was really hard. But what we were confident in, and what the geneticists were confident in, just based on that conversation, was that this was an isolated case, that there was no other genetic abnormalities that caused the cleft. It was really strictly the way the baby grew. And as his mouth was fusing, just there was something that went wrong, one of those freak things. You know, it was really, really hard. And I think that was another thing that really bonded me and Kim. Being that far apart when we were hearing this news was actually really tough, because I couldn't reach out and give Kim a hug. And I'll never forget, like, the things that she said to me was, you know, she was obviously in tears, as was I. And she said, you know, I just feel like I couldn't give you the perfect experience. And that just, like, that stung me. And I said to Kim, like, Kim, it's going to be perfect and it's going to be fine. And that was me just trying to be strong for Kim in a period, because I knew that she needed to keep it together. She needed to not stress about this. She needed to not think that this was her fault or anyone's fault beyond just nature. And that was a really, really, really tough day. We had to go through another, you know, Kim, I'll let you speak to the news there.
It makes me tear. No, it was really hard. Because up until then, you know, this was my third journey. It was my fifth baby. No other, you know, I had had twins previously, and that was kind of a pain in the butt anatomy scan, because there were two of them, but had never had any issues. Like, all of them have been textbook. And then to have this one, and they, you know, they paused, they were quiet, they wouldn't quite say anything. They waited for the doctor to come in. And, you know, immediately I'm like, well, you know, was it something I did? Did I wait 27 hours to take a prenatal vitamin, and that should have been every 24? Like, you start, you know, thinking about, like, these little kind of nitpicky things, like, and even though, like Amanda said, it was a freak thing, we did an amnio, which was my first amnio that I'd ever have. It was easy and horrible at the same time. And so they did the amniocentesis and everything came back normal with that. But there was like a week wait between when we had the amnio and when we got the results, and it was a really stressful time. And it was, Amanda was great during it all. I was really stressed because my biggest fear was being left out of the loop, because anytime you start to get like third party agencies in there, somebody, whether it's the IP, whether it's the surrogate, somebody always gets forgotten and left out. And I had stressed to them, like, please don't leave me out, please leave me in the loop. And then I had been left out of the loop. But Amanda was, as soon as Amanda found out anything, she would call me. As soon as I would find out anything, I would call her to see if she had found out yet. And it was a really great time for kind of bringing us closer. And, you know, I think maybe for her, like, knowing that, you know, we both cared about this baby a lot. We're both going to do everything, you know, that we need to make sure that this is like a perfect delivery, you know, as perfect as it can be. And yeah, I don't know, it just really brought us a little bit closer together.
A lot of it closer together. I think, you know, we had about 20 weeks to process, and we both went through like a wave of emotions. You know, there's sadness, denial, fear for a child that isn't even born. Like, what's his life going to be like? Is he going to be made fun of for the rest of his life? And what happened was, like, I started to educate myself, and I was looping Kim into all the doctor conversations that I was having. And the more I learned, the more I really came to believe that, like, this was just going to be a blip on his radar. We're in New York City with incredible care. You know, the extent of his cleft, we had learned just through ultrasounds, wasn't severe. So we knew that, you know, aesthetically, he probably wasn't going to look like most babies did when he was born, but in due time, in like the 3-month mark, he was going to be stitched up and ready to go. So, you know, by the time, you know, for a while there, I just wasn't as excited about having a baby anymore. But that turned a corner probably when we hit closer to 30 weeks. And I was like, we're having this baby, and this baby is going to be perfect. And I can't wait. And yeah.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to get this thought out. Like, you could see how psychologically, like, I could see how you would avoid, you know, not avoid, but want to like kind of shut down a little bit. And what I think is another really beautiful and amazing part of your story together is how you manage this together, because, you know, human nature is funny, and and some people could have handled it differently. You know, there might be an intended parent out there who might have been angry, you know, or there might have been a surrogate out there who would not have been as compassionate about it, and caring about it, and wanting to have this baby be perfect. So I think the fact that you became closer together and supported each other through it is really an amazing testament to your spirits, the two of you, that you brought this like really positive, loving energy to the bringing of this baby Andrew into the world. And I'm struck by it. You know, to this day, I'm struck by it. And and I'm sure Alan was right there for you too, because I know that he would be.
Yeah, he had his, I mean, I think this was like, I think the hardest moment in our lives. Fortunately, we've had blessed lives, and this was a hard moment for us. And, you know, we've never really handled adversity like this. So we definitely handled it and processed it in different ways. He was kind of more, a little bit in denial, and I was more like, okay, let's take charge and figure out what this all means. And he kind of came along for the ride, and, you know, obviously again made all the big decisions with me and met all the doctors. But yeah, I mean, we were a unit. Like, we had to kind of bond over this together and bind ourselves to each other in order to get through it. And, you know, I think that also helped our communication after the fact. You know, after the baby was born, there was a lot of appointments. This baby has been through a lot. He had a 6-hour surgery when he was 14 weeks old, and Kim, like, after every appointment, like, I would call Kim or FaceTime Kim, or like after any update, just because I wanted her to be involved, and I knew she wanted to be involved. And, you know, I was also so proud of this little creature that we had created together, and like she needs to be a part of it. So yeah.
I'm going to say something corny. It's like your sisters now. It's like you would be like, you know, maybe you've had, I don't have a sister, so, but I have a sister-in-law that I'm really close with, but it's the person that you would call to say, this is what's going on. This is how the
Yeah,
surgery is going.
for
And
sure.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, she was living it. So I do have a sister, and my sister was full of platitudes. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. And it's like, I don't want to hear that right now.
Yeah.
You're not in the thick of it. But, you know, at the end of the day, my baby is beautiful. And he was, the moment he was born, I mean, we just fell in love with him, even with his little, you know, gap in his mouth. And
Yeah.
it was incredible.
Well, it certainly is a story of the resilience of the two of you and your human spirits, and then how you loved him to healing.
Yeah.
You know, you did, as parents, you did all the right things for him. You got all the right care for him, and he's good, right?
Yeah.
I know you showed me pictures of him, and you got him through that. So it's another testament to, because what are we? You know, there might be some people out here who are thinking of having children. It's an amazing thing, right? It's a beautiful thing. I wouldn't want to have life without it. It's also challenging, and it's also requires sacrifice, and you know, in a good way. I mean, Kim talked about paying it forward, and I think that's what we do as parents. We kind of pay it forward. We bring these little people into the world to try to hope to make the world a better place. So, and if we you know, parent. I'm not a perfect parent by any means, and my kids put me through the mill when they were in high school, but we put the energy into them, so hopefully they're going to be productive members, which they're turning out to be. So
yeah, for sure.
It's all good. So tell me about the birth now through COVID. You know, you went into, tell me about going into labor and what that was like, and Amanda getting there and this baby being born.
That was the best. Not for Kim, but yeah. So I arrived in Denver about 2 weeks before the baby was born. I didn't want to miss the birth for anything. My husband was in a really busy season at work, so he was either going to come out if she went into labor and chance missing the birth, or as we were getting closer to his due date, he would have flown out. And as it turns out, that baby was happily parked. We scheduled an induction, and Alan flew in the day before the baby was born. Kim, do you want to talk through the process?
Well, with COVID, it kind of threw a wrench into things. This is my second actual induction. I was induced with my daughter. And labor sucks when you're induced.
Oh,
it
really?
hurts so much more.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
It hurts so much more. And when, for example, in my first journey, he was late. He was 10 days late. And so we had scheduled an induction for like the next morning. And that night I kind of started kind of going into labor. And I had ended up calling my doula, and she's like, oh no, you'll be fine. And I show up to the hospital like 2 hours after I get off the phone with her, and they're like, oh, you're almost 8 centimeters. But getting to 8 centimeters with this one was rough. Like when it happens because of Pitocin, it's not fun. But we scheduled it for going in on a Thursday night, and that was for a couple of reasons. It allowed Amanda and I to get COVID tested, so we could kind of relax a little bit as far as the hospital protocols were concerned, because we weren't going in there this unknown.
Yeah, that's great.
And then it also allowed for Ellen to fly in. It allowed for me to make sure that I was going to have my OB. And so I was going to be 40 weeks on that Sunday. And so that Thursday night, we scheduled an induction. I actually went to Zumba right before my induction, and I did Zumba outside for an hour. I'm like, I guess I gotta go get induced.
Oh my God.
And I went and I picked up Amanda and Alan, and we all went to the hospital together. Or not Alan, sorry, he ended up coming later. But I picked up Amanda. I met Alan in person for the first time. And then I took Amanda and I to the hospital, and we, started the induction, and the next morning when they checked me, I was exactly where I was when they started.
Oh my God.
Then they got a little bit more aggressive in their induction. And I try to go as natural as I can. But it was a long process. And so maybe about halfway there, I was probably 5 or 6 centimeters. I said, you know what, I want an epidural. And they said, well, the anesthesiologist is busy.
Oh, geez.
So we'll let him know. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I, labored along. And then I told my doula, I said, if I'm not ready to give birth, like, I want that epidural. This is ridiculous. And so they checked me and said, oh, you're about 8 centimeters or so. And I said, they go, well, if you want an epidural, let us know. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I told you like a long time ago, what feels like days ago. But a couple contractions later and I was ready to push. So they didn't have time to go get him anyway.
It was,
I can't believe,
pushed for the body and he was out.
it was absolutely, from my perspective, we actually got a room next door. So my husband and I were able to, be there that night. And what was so crazy is like, we were asleep-ish because it was hard to sleep. We were so excited. We didn't know when the baby was going to come. And like, you could hear screams and then a baby crying and then, just a baby crying and then more screams. And you're like, oh my God, their baby's being born all around us. So that was really cool. And then I'll never forget, like Kim she was like incredible. I mean, I could never, like, it was so hard for me because I was like, she's going through this for me. Like, how am I worthy of this? This is insane. And I remember telling Kim, I was like, don't be a hero, get an epidural, you are fine. And then she, as she was saying, like, it took them a while to come around. And then she's like, I need a push. And I'm like, wait, what? What? And then they just ascended on her and got into position so like quickly. And within 2 pushes, he was out. And it was just like, it was wild. It was the coolest thing to witness my son coming into this world. Like, to me, it was like one of the highlights of my life. I have to say, better than my own birth, for sure.
Wow. That's amazing. That's,
It was cool. It was really cool. Yeah.
And so you were right there and the baby was born and it's your baby and Kim was doing okay because she had a hard labor, but you were okay. So then who cut the cord?
I think the doctors did.
Doctor?
He chickened out. Yeah.
And then did you, they gave the baby to you to hold, right, Amanda?
I actually gave Kim the baby to hold.
Okay. So Kim said hello to the baby.
Kim said hello first, yeah.
You know what his name was at that point?
We did, yeah. We did. We couldn't decide on Harry or Andrew, and we ended up going with Andrew to complete the quadrifecta of A's in my family. But yeah, for me, I had always envisioned, what's that moment going to be like? Like, I think when you're a first-time parent and you're going through surrogacy, it might feel better to like have that baby on you because you've worked so hard and you've never experienced this before. But for me, it was my way of saying like, no, you did all the hard work. Like, you deserve this moment. He's coming home with me. So I'm good. You take him for a view. But yeah, when I did hold him for the first time, it was like the culmination of everything. It was like the most beautiful, crazy moment. I had the biggest smile on my face. I didn't even see his cleft. Like, it was definitely there, but like, I just didn't care. All I was happy about was like, the doctors keep on telling me like, he's healthy, he's perfect, he's passing everything, his APGAR is high. Like, there's just so many things to celebrate, like the little mini victories. And we were discharged on time and it was incredible. It really was a beautiful moment.
Where did you stay? You were discharged like the next day? Were you both, the baby and Kim, discharged the next day?
Yeah, so we ended up staying 1 extra day for no other reason than we wanted to get home. Kim, it was hard on Kim because we didn't want to up and leave, but for many reasons, like we needed to get him to the our doctors, our surgeons wanted to kind of be cracking on it sooner. Our son was just starting a new school, so we wanted to get
you had your other baby
first day. We're also Jewish, so we had a bris that we needed to prepare for. So there were like some things that were kind of like that we just needed to get home for. So they kept us overnight for 1 extra day just to monitor and make sure that he was fit to fly, which he was. We flew across the country in the pandemic to get our baby home. But honestly, for anyone who is contemplating a flight, it's the easiest flight you'll ever take. Babies just sleep. And when they're not
Yeah.
sleeping, you're feeding them, and it was super easy. It was way easier than traveling with my 4-year-old.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, because people do ask like, how soon can I fly with my baby after the birth? And as long as the baby's healthy, you can basically
Yeah.
fly with the baby.
Yeah. So he was born on the 28th, and we flew home on the 2nd. So it was no time at all. Super easy. The wonderful thing was, as I was walking through the airport with this tiny little peanut, people were like, "You look fabulous! Like, how did you just have a baby?" I'm like,
That's
"Little
great.
peanut." Thanks, I'll take the compliment.
Exactly. Right.
Exercise. It was exercise.
Yeah,
Exercise.
that's really funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good because that's another good thing. People don't need to know your story, your private business. Like I have an adopted son. I have 2 sons and one of them is adopted and he's blonde and red. He had red hair when he was a baby and freckles and we'd go shopping and people say, "Oh, he must look just like his father." And it's like, "Oh yeah, like yes."
Sure. Whatever you want to believe.
Yeah, but I think the point is people don't, you don't know what to say sometimes when people say things, but you could just say nothing, go with the flow, whatever. And I think that's it's a good point to remember because surrogacy, I mean, a lot of people know about it now, but it still is fairly unknown in the world out there. It's not that it's unknown, it's just not understood or people need to have things explained. So we don't have to, we don't have to educate those people. They can get educated on their own.
Totally.
Unless like someone like Kim, I mean, you could tell people you're being a surrogate and it could be really cool, to educate people in that way. But it will come when it comes to the privacy of your baby, you don't have to.
Yeah.
One fun thing I've done for all of my surrogacies is wear a nice shirt to the airport. And my one, I think I wore for yours, Amanda, said on the front, on my way to get knocked up. And it's got like little like a little shot and for like the hip injections and stuff. And then on the back it says like #surrogate. But I always wear a fun shirt to the airport. That's about
cool.
the extent that I do. I've got, my high school students ask a ton of questions. And so I'm very open about it at work. But
I'm proud.
That's good. Go ahead.
I'm proud of it. I think that in some ways in my world, which is like I'm a normal mom, people are very fascinated by the story and like they never really know that that's like an option. But I'm so proud to have gone through this, and it's interesting because I don't know how the story is going to come to life for my son as he grows up, and like what's the story that he's going to be comfortable sharing. But I feel like the beauty of the world that we live in today is that there's no such thing as conventional anymore. It's not just about a mom and a dad who create a baby. It's single moms. It's different types of families come together. And I think that hopefully as my child grows up, being born to someone else is going to be just like normal,
Yeah. Well, and it's all about, and this is another good topic to go into as we get toward the end of our session, but this idea of your baby will experience, the children will experience, Kim's daughter will experience her as a surrogate based on the energy that you bring to it. Totally. that you bring all this love and positive energy and joy to the experience. So the children will grab onto that and they will experience joy in terms of their own stories. I think that's true. I think the energy that you bring to it will be what the children will experience. And
so too.
I really do. I really admire the two of you. I really love the two of you. It's been so amazing to be part of this tonight because I'm revisiting it myself, and it's really cool.
Yeah. No.
Is there anything? Yeah. Any like little I don't know. I'll call it a tip or a helpful hint that you want to give to people, whether it's to surrogates or to parents, either which way. Before we conclude, and I'll also just invite, people are quiet tonight. I don't see any questions. If anybody wants to pop a question into the, let me see, I do have a question. What is the maximum number of pregnancies a surrogate can do? I think it's 5, isn't it?
I know some people have done 6, like they've got 3 kids and then they do 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's 5 or 6. It depends on the clinic. I would say not more than 6, and possibly not more than 5. But if you're thinking of becoming a surrogate, the thing to do would be to write into us, and Molly of our team will talk to you about what the criteria are to become a surrogate, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that. Thank you for that question, Ruth. Anybody else have any questions? I don't see anything more. So, okay, well, we're at 8:29, so let's go to a little conclusion from Amanda and then from Kim, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, my best advice I would just give is just dive in. I mean, if you are thinking about this, even with the adversity that we face, that's not common. Like, people don't typically go through this. It was still the best experience, and I wouldn't have changed anything. So if you are, even like remotely like doubting the process, like, go for it. Like, there's no way that you can regret it when you have a baby in your arm. That's the last thing I'll say. And I'm also going to drop my, I don't know if everyone can see this, but oh, maybe not. If anyone wants to get in touch to talk about, if you have other specific questions, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone that wants, another conversation.
It's in the chat. I see it. And
Okay.
also, I'll invite everyone to, thank you for saying that, because I was going to say too that if anybody wants to speak to Amanda or Kim, I'll speak for you. They would be happy to speak to you more.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
So you can reach out to me or to someone at Worldwide Surrogacy, and we can get you their information. And now we'll hear from Kim.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions about the surrogate side, feel free to reach out to Vicky, and she can put you into contact with me. I'd be more than willing to talk to you. 2 pieces of advice, one that I touched on. Number 1, like, if you want to be a surrogate, don't be afraid to speak your mind. If you do not feel comfortable with, termination, if there's a genetic issue, or if it's like the selective termination for if multiple embryos end up sticking, like, say so in your profile. Don't be afraid and then put yourself in a situation later that you're really uncomfortable being in. And the second piece of advice is hire a photographer, because that's the one thing that I did for all of my journeys. And Amanda was a little bit hesitant, but then came around to it. My doula was my photographer because of COVID. I had to all-in-one my person. But it makes it so that I can see what was happening, because I don't remember giving birth. Your hormones are so high and there's so much going on. And it was nice to be able to see her face, and to see kind of just everything, the before, during, and after. And that's been one thing that I've always gifted or wanted to gift my IPs, is a photographer. And a lot of first-time parents don't think about a photographer when it comes to the birth. And it's probably the best thing, because then you have it, you remember it, and you can look back on it.
Yeah. Best gift. It was incredible.
It's a great idea.
Best gift. I'll take Andrew.
No, but to have those memories, because so much is going on in those moments that, you think you'll remember, but then, you look at the pictures and you're like, oh my God, like, now you really remember. But, well, this has been amazing. I have really enjoyed being with you, Amanda and Kim. I really have enjoyed tonight. And I think we should do it again.
Would love to.
Really been cool. And thank you so much. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much. And keep sending the pictures of your beautiful families. Wow. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you for completing ours. That's all. I mean, ultimately, that's what this is about. So thank you. And we look forward to more of these.
Yeah.
Amazing and wonderful.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for coming all, and we'll see you soon. Call or email us if you want to chat. Bye.
Bye.